Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. We are your hosts. I am Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Ring Whalen.
I knew last week I listened to the episode, at least the first part, and I said host. We are your host is what I said. And so I was like, we are your hosts this time. I made sure to really get the S in there because, my first time doing it and I fuck it up. So
the royal we, the royal I.
Yeah.
We are your host.
We are your host.
I mean, I didn't even notice it, if I'm being honest.
But I did. So I didn't want, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, man. I just didn't. I wanted people to know, like, if they noticed, so did I. And I fixed it retroactively.
Yeah.
Just now.
Yeah. Well, and now we have video for episode 2.
Now we have video. I hope.
Yes. So.
So anyway, here's
new...
here's France, and here's.
we're doing the.
So
bit.
here's France, and you can see how close it is to Spain, and so I guess that's why people speak Spanish in Irreversible. Okay, get it away.
Yeah, and then also our new Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Darth Maul has been replaced, mainly because I couldn't get him back up on the wall. So,
but hey, I prefer this way more. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie. We're not gonna say it more than once. I think that that's playing a dangerous game. So.
Yes. So I should mention, as I said last week, how I'm gonna kind of stretch that whole strange concept very thin.
Not this time.
Not with this one, but I was like, that means I get to pick some Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Like the aforementioned other movie.
Yes, the movie that
we're not going to say 2 more times.
It is above my head.
And that's one of the many different spellings of that name.
One of my favorite. We'll get started in a second.
Yes.
One of my favorite jokes in Ted 2. Shout out to the movie Ted 2. Anyway,
I never saw it.
Oh my God, he says it in the courtroom because he needs help, and he starts saying the word, and Mark Wahlberg stops and goes, "Hey man, what are you doing? Cut the shit!" You know, he's like, "You want that? You want that mojo on us, man? You out of your mind?" It made me laugh so hard because they think it's real, and so now I pretend it's. I mean, it is real.
Yeah. So take it serious. Do you want Michael Keaton to burst in through your door?
Not like that. Not like that.
Not just like that.
No, maybe the multiplicity him.
Especially with one of them that's like Dum Dum Rick.
The only that's funny, Doofus Rick. The only thing worse than that character, if as Michael Keaton busting in your house, is Jack Frost. If Jack Frost like busting in your house, like you got problems.
And that's a good segue.
Like he's gonna murder you.
And that's a good segue from a fever dream of a movie where a dad comes back as a snowman.
It's the stupidest thing.
The neglectful, about to be successful musician father who's like, what am I doing? I need to go back to my family.
Yeah.
In a fucking snowstorm, and then dies.
And then dies.
And then comes back as a snowman.
Oh my God. First off, pause us, go watch the movie. It's insane.
I think you can find it on HBO or something.
It's places. It's places.
Now be sure you find the Michael Keaton one because there is another Jack Frost.
A
horror.
Yeah, a horror movie. Well, to be honest, both are horror movies, but
and especially the Michael Keaton one because it is because I believe the snowman. We'll get to House. Hang on. I believe the snowman face model was based on the original person they had for the role, which was George Clooney.
Yeah.
So it looks like
it kind of has a George Clooney face, yeah.
Because thankfully George was like, I'm George Clooney.
I'm George Clooney.
I'm not going to come back as a fucking snowman.
Yeah, I'm George Clooney.
I mean, not to say that Michael Keaton is a lesser actor, but Michael, why did you agree to do Jack Frost? But it's okay.
Anyway, today's episode is House.
Yes. As I mentioned last week, this movie is Japanese, so great way to start off season with 2 foreign language films.
Yes, I thought about that. So my next pick will not be a foreign because I thought about doing it again, and I was like, let's back off. Let's give people's eyes a rest, and let's not have them read so much. But House. So I don't. If you can't tell. At home, I did not take any notes this time because why bother? And like how, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure I could have like got myself together and like wrote stuff down, but I was like, I just can't. You know what I mean? It's too much.
Yeah. Even watching the documentary that's on the Criterion Collection about it, it's more just like factoids about certain ideas in the movie. It explains nothing
Well, I mean,
of what the movie actually is, though.
you can't, right?
Yeah.
So, Rain, this is your pick. I'll leave this to you.
Okay.
Where do we start?
Where do we start? I guess we'll just start with the story.
Okay.
Very basic story. Story of a girl and her 6 friends, all on summer vacation, going to her distant aunt's house in the country.
Yeah.
And one by one, they are all eaten by the house.
Yeah. In one form or another.
Yes, and that's not like a euphemism for anything. They are literally eaten by the house. And that's the best jumping off point I would say we should start at.
Yeah, the main character, her name is Gorgeous.
Yes.
They all have nicknames.
Yes, Gorgeous is our main girl. Then we have Prof,
Mac.
who is the smart one. Mac, who likes to eat.
She's not, they keep calling her fat.
But
she's not fat.
Really
she's not at all. She's like the same size. I think her face is a little more plump than everyone else's, but that's about it.
There's Fantasy, who is more of like a daydreamer.
Melody, the musician. Kung Fu, who is my favorite.
She knows Kung Fu.
She knows Kung Fu.
And then there's Sweets, who is...
Sweets, okay. Sweets I take it back. Sweets may be my favorite because she is the Scooby-Doo of everyone, because she keeps, we'll get there, but she keeps like going, Mac.
I thought that was Fantasy.
No, I'm pretty sure that was Sweet. I thought.
No, I think that's Fantasy. Because Sweets gets eaten by the mattress. This is.
Oh, is that Sweet?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Fantasy technically is our final girl, but they all die.
Yeah, Sweets. Yeah. Okay. So Fantasy's the one.
Yes, Sweets gets eaten by the mattresses and then shows up in the grandfather clock.
Okay, so Fantasy's the one.
Oh my God.
That's an insane sentence you just said.
I know, and everyone either watching or listening is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie. You're right. So Fantasy's the one that's like, the well.
And they're like, what?
She's basically like, ruh-roh raggy. You know, she's basically Scooby-Doo. And I love that no one believes her. And anytime something happens, she's the only person that sees it. You know?
Right.
Love it. Love it. That's hilarious. Okay. Okay. So a thing to know about this movie to go in that may make it seem a little more sense in terms of style is the director did commercials.
Yes.
That was his main job.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something really interesting to learn from a documentary. I cannot pronounce our director's name, so I'll just put it on the screen.
Unfortunately, I can't either. You can. I'm not even going to try because I feel like I wouldn't do a good enough job.
Yes,
and it would almost seem like I'm making fun of it trying. And
yes.
so I don't want to do
so
that.
We're just going to put it right here on the screen, and now it's gone. Which also I learned, R.I.P. He passed away last year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because I was like, I wonder why. The documentary's from 2010. I guess he must have recently passed away. And I looked it up and I was like, oh no, he like literally just passed away. So R.I.P. But yeah, that was really interesting. That because as he was saying, in Japan during the 60s, film was down, TV was up,
which is so strange.
Think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially I would say that's the kind of the thing now is film.
Yeah.
Is starting to not die, but is going down, and TV shows are getting bigger budgets.
It's almost like they can't both be popular, right?
Right.
And so right now in this time, I think movies are starting to work their way back up because we've already left the platinum age of television. I think that's sort of over.
Right.
But you're right. I think that in the 60s, it was the opposite. That was their like platinum golden age of television, and right.
But yeah, and so that was just really interesting that like he would essentially come up with a lot of these. The best way I can describe it is very like avant-garde commercials.
Yeah. Of
course, Asian culture with commercials are very strange to begin with.
Yeah.
But this director in particular, I would say, has a very unique and distinct style.
I would agree with that. 100%. Yeah, which is why this movie is bananas.
Yeah.
Crazy, because he's taking his, you know, he's taking his commercial brain and he's putting it in this feature film length.
Yeah.
Right? And he claims that he was the first person in a Japanese film to use video special effects.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I saw
I don't know
that.
if that's true. He says it's true.
That would be wild if it is true.
Yeah.
Someone out there fact check that for us.
Yeah, fact check that for us.
And don't tell us. So we'll just sit here and wonder.
Yeah.
But that would be wild. I mean, and the effects, if I'm being honest, for 1977, the effects are really good.
I mean, they're good because I think of the style of the movie. I think if we were to see this in Rashomon or something, right? Which is a terrible example because that was, 27 years before this. But
I see what you're saying. If like Kurosawa had done effects like this,
it would be like, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Like, here, you should have said high and low.
Yeah, because the story's too serious.
Right.
Right? And there is a little effect in high and low. But nothing to this scale. That's like insane, right?
Like, yeah, using like the use of, blue screen.
Yeah.
Some parts are very, like, you can obviously tell
right,
blue screen, but like other parts are really good, like the dismembered bodies, body parts later in the movie.
Yeah, that's not bad. Again, I think that it's because this is supposed to be a sort of fever dream type, story and style that we're very forgiving of a lot of the campiness of the effects because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think the campiness adds to some of the more I wouldn't say unsettling parts of the movie, but like it just adds a lot.
I would say the most unsettled I was, and this might be just unique to me, is when the ant is sort of spinning around and dancing in the kitchen and then just goes into the refrigerator.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then comes out...
On the wood beam.
Right, on the wood beam. And again, Fantasy's the only one who sees it.
Yeah.
But I think that was sort of unsettling because she was in a wheelchair and now she isn't, so that's sort of weird. And then she did this very odd thing, and then she disappears and then reappears to where only the audience knows where she is, right?
Yeah.
I think if that were played any differently, it would have been terrifying. I would have been really scared of that. But because it's in this setting and in this style and this movie is so weird and sort of funny in its weirdness, that it's sort of maybe played for laughs a little bit, that part.
Maybe.
If it had been done differently, I think it would have been absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because, as we're kind of talking about off mic, the director and the screenwriter don't consider this movie a horror movie.
Right.
Even though, if I'm being honest, it kind of is.
Yeah, it is.
They consider it a ghost fantasy movie because when they were growing up, horror movies weren't a thing. And so they
it might be a cultural thing as well.
Probably.
Which we should say later, so this is 77, later on down the line, they're going to be, considered one of the main exports of horror. Japanese horror films are huge, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this will not last long, this whole, horror sort of new to us, because then they're just going to...
Yeah, because, there's Ringu.
There's Grudge.
I don't remember the Japanese for Grudge.
There's The Eye. There's, I think Pulse is one. And then there were some really weird ones that really didn't make it to America and have the American treatment those did, that are just off the wall. There's Extreme 3 is one of them.
So we had two extremes?
Well, no, it's there, or maybe it's called 3 Extremes, where it's 3 stories, right? And they are just
wild. Yeah.
Wild, yeah.
So would you say that maybe that House maybe set a precedent for these
it's very possible.
Off the wall?
Yeah, especially in how far you can go. Once, let's say if a director saw this took their story seriously, took out the camp, and put in better effects, you have an extreme gore horror film.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, you could say that it probably sparked a lot of, and especially in Japan, it was huge there. I mean,
yeah.
Critically beloved, this movie. I mean, you would think no, right?
Yeah.
But no, they love it. And, of course, we love it here.
Yeah. I read that when it finally came over here, like, audiences here, like, were like, yes.
And really, it was really hard to see until, like, 2009.
Yeah.
Which is a long time in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
32 years.
Yeah.
From its release.
That we, in America, were able to see it.
Yeah. And
I mean, relatively, it was available to wider audience. I mean, it wasn't like bootlegs or anything like that. Like, it was like had a release in 2009. So, I mean, I'm sure people have seen it in between those 32 years or whatever.
Right.
35 years, whatever you said. But like, it would be like bootlegs. It'd be like VHS bootlegs or like maybe even 35 millimeter prints or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Cause yeah, I did read that like over here in America, people love it.
I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah. It's like I said last week, it's wild. Every second in the movie is insane.
So later I'm going to ask you what your favorite effect is. So I want you to think about that.
All right. I'll get that.
Because I have mine, but I was like, I need you to have time to think about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of want to talk about how this movie goes off the rails so quickly.
Yeah. It starts off pretty strange. I mean, I think when we say it goes off the rails, I think that, let's say you're watching it for the first time. Let's say, remember when you watched it for the first time. Mm-hmm. I think as soon as it starts, you're like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
But once you're done, you're like, oh, that was nothing.
Yeah.
As compared to, because no one's turned into bananas yet. So, so.
Literal bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, the first few shots establishing gorgeous and fantasy, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of kabuki theater. Mm-hmm. But then it's just like, oh, like they're just taking pictures, and we have some weird camera movements and some weird camera effects, like with the dissolve of gorgeous and fantasy after they've left the window.
Yeah, that happens a few times.
And so it's
sort of the after image is still there.
Yeah, and so you're kind of like, okay, that's a little weird. But then once Gorgeous meets her soon-to-be stepmom, which I should point out, Gorgeous is kind of a selfish brat. As her dad very blatantly points out, her mother's been dead for 8 years.
Yeah.
It's kind of time to move on.
Yeah.
And she pretty much is like, no, I'm writing to my aunt who I haven't seen in forever. And then that's when the movie just goes off the rails.
Let's talk about the letter to the aunt. So they send the letter. She sends the letter to the aunt. The aunt writes back. And then once they are on their way, which I've yada-yada'd a lot of weird in between that time. So we'll double back and we'll get to it. But I loved that instead of what we would think is visuals for us, the audience, of the backstory of the aunt and, her story and her mother's story or whatever, right? They can also see it, the girls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They can also see the images we're seeing, which is so strange because it's like she's just telling them a story. She's not showing them these images. And so it's weird that it sort of breaks that that pattern that we're so used to in movies, which is someone tells a story and then it dissolves and then we get to see the story, right?
Right.
Where that happens, but the girls are pointing out things and reacting to images that we're seeing.
Yeah, like when she's talking about how like the fiance had to go off to war and they're like, oh no, he got shot.
Oh no. Oh, he's so serious,
Yeah.
Or, whatever. It's just wild. And of course it's very silent film-esque, which I liked, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I like old silent films.
Yeah, and that backstory, if I'm being honest, is actually a very key moment to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But I would say, since having the girls react over it, we, the audience, were just kind of like, oh, okay, like, it's just backstory.
Right.
But when you really think about it, all of everything that Gorgeous just said, it has pretty much everything they need to know what they're about to get into.
Yeah.
But you're kind of dismissive because we're also seeing it how the girls are seeing it.
Right. Which is sort of this very stylized silent film style sort of a, representation of the story, right?
Yeah.
Which is weird. But but it's no different than, how Wes Anderson, I'll do a Wes Anderson way, what he did in Grand Budapest, where they have that sort of that sequence of silent film stuff when they're escaping the prison and they
right.
So it's no different than that. So I mean, it's like, I'm used to stuff like that, but it's still strange.
Yeah.
And it's still a break from the insanity we just left, which is sort of like this very vibrant, bubblegum sort of commercial-esque aesthetic, right?
Yeah, especially with the really cool dissolve to the kid's book about the train, and then we see like an animatic of the train taking them to the country.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah. The movie's just so...
And then the guys at the train station that are sort of hitting on the girls and whatever. Yeah, they're a band, by the way. I'm not familiar with their music, but that's their cameo appearance.
Wouldn't it be funny if that's the band that actually scored the movie?
That'd be great. I don't know if that's true or not. I just knew they were a band that
the two songs that we have for our intro and outro music are done by the same band.
Okay, it might be those guys.
But yeah,
I don't think I put two and two together on that. If that is true,
well, look, we'll put it in post.
But we'll fix it in post. So.
Yeah, and the strangeness just only continues once they get to the country, like meeting the watermelon salesman.
Yeah, that was strange.
Who pretty, as in like most horror movies now, like modern horror movies, pretty much warns them like, hey, don't go up there.
Yeah, he's sort of that Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre type old guy who runs the convenience store, the gas station. That
just so conveniently happens to be right where they're going.
And knows exactly what's going on and that they shouldn't go, right? It's that trope.
That's the only thing, shout out to The Cabin in the Woods. That's the only thing in The Cabin in the Woods that I actually really liked. Because I don't like that movie.
That's insane that you don't like that movie, but...
I understand that it's a very meta movie, and I get it. And sure, shout out to Joss Whedon for writing a very meta horror movie, even though he's a monster. But that part was the only part I really liked. Because, like, it was blatantly obvious, like, hey, like... Yeah, we'll just have the weird guy there that warns our heroes, like, hey, don't go up there.
Don't do it. And that's what this watermelon guy was like.
Yeah, even though he is way weirder than anyone else, like specifically waiting behind, maybe I'm overthinking it, but specifically waiting behind a watermelon for someone to take and his head's just right there.
Yeah.
But it's very...
Which sort of foreshadows what happens to Mac.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so, yeah. Because I think Mac's the one who grabs the watermelon. Yeah. I think Mac is the one, because Mac is just all about that watermelon.
She's all about eating. She's all about eating food.
Yeah.
I'm very hungry right now, so I agree.
As am I.
So let me ask you this.
Okay. Ask me your question.
When it's all said and done, the aunt is dead, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she is possessing Gorgeous, or the house is possessing Gorgeous, because when... You know what? Pause. We'll get there. Because I was just curious because I was started thinking about it because we're about to meet the aunt. In our rundown.
Yeah, we meet the aunt who is I don't know the actress's name, but she's the only veteran actress in the movie.
Yeah, no one else was, and I knew that they were like models and they had done, print ads. I don't think they were one of his commercial actors or anything like that.
I want to say the actress who played Gorgeous that I read, that she had done like one other movie before this, so she kind of.
But no one else.
And but I knew like no one else.
Yeah, but you can kind of tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Even in a Japanese film, you can tell an amateur.
It
actor.
does play a lot like, sort of like theater. That they're playing to the back row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I had thought about that, and if I were writing notes, I would have wrote it down. Yes, they're new at this, right? They're amateur actors, but they're overacting so much that they almost get the tone of the movie. They sort of understand that this movie's going to be outrageous. And so we need to act accordingly, right?
Right. Yeah, I would agree to that. Yeah, because there are certain parts where the acting is really over the top. Especially in the first kind of few scenes before like the house really starts to eat the girls, like when bits of the chandelier fall, everyone's just like like very like
right.
Oh my God.
I think, the most outrageous the acting gets, maybe Kung Fu. I think just because her character's weird, because her character is, she knows Kung Fu. That's her character, which I love.
Yeah. And she's the one who reacts like that to the bits of the chandelier falling.
That's true. Which that sequence of shots is so crazy.
Yeah,
because there's so many cuts.
As she's like karate chopping like all of them away and stuff like that. Yeah,
there's so many cuts, and there's so whatever. We'll get there. So, okay, let's talk about the deaths. All right, because I think if we start talking about what happens in between all of that, it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's just so much
that
happens in this movie, and a lot of it is just kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it really is.
Which is a testament to asking your 10-year-old daughter what should happen next. Okay, I'll write it down.
Yeah, which is
how the movie is written.
Because the director asked his, at the time, 10-year-old daughter, like, hey, like, what would make an interesting movie like Jaws? Because Jaws was a big movie at the time. And so his daughter's like, well, it'd be really interesting if, like, because she was brushing her hair, and she was like, it'd be really interesting if my reflection attacked me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
And then, like, later on, he's like, what would happen next? And she's like, well, like, when I stayed with Grandma at the country, like, I didn't like the grandfather clock. I thought it was going to eat me. And he was like, all right, put it in.
Another thing that's going to eat you. Okay.
Okay. All right. What next? Like, well, the futon mattresses are really heavy, and I was worried that they were going to swallow me. Okay.
Okay. The piano, the chandelier,
Yeah. And so it's
just unreal, man.
Well, and what's funny is I would say dad of the year there. Your daughter tells you at least 5 or 6 times, like, I'm worried this is going to eat me. And instead of being like, you need therapy, he's like, all right, well, we're going to turn your fears into a movie.
Yeah. Success. Because all of those things happen. It's all outrageous. It's all insane. I don't remember if we see Mac die.
We don't. Hers is the only one off screen.
Yeah, because it was the reveal that it's not the watermelon.
Yeah, fantasy
head,
pulls
right?
up. Yeah.
And of course it's fantasy, and she's Mac, her head, the well. Right. She's almost like Lassie. They're like, what?
What is it, boy?
What is it, boy? So, which... Anyway.
The old prospector stuck in the well? No, that's not what I said.
That's not what I said.
I said I need a pack of menthols.
Right.
Oh. Well, it's the 40s. We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, because they just finished, like, I think lunch or dinner.
Right.
And Mac's like, I'm ready for that watermelon.
Is it to keep it cold?
Yes.
Is why it's in the well?
Yes. I learned that from the documentaries because...
Is that a cultural thing? Because it's smart.
Yeah, because the director's daughter at her grandparents' house in the country, they didn't have a fridge. So to cool the watermelon down, they stuck it in the well. I do believe it's a cultural thing.
Well, I mean, that's not only a cultural thing, but it's a generational thing as well, I think.
Yeah.
Because, a grandparent of a 10-year-old in 77
when they were a kid, it would be like
early 1900s.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So depending on how old the grandparents are.
But they also established that the fridge at the aunt's house is broken, so they have to. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great sort of don't open that. It's broken. You're right.
It's broken.
Which is like, what's in there? Yeah.
It's like the Patrick Bateman, like, oh, let me get some yogurt from my fridge, and there's a head in there.
Right, exactly. So it's
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Mac is the first to die of the 7, which apparently is a reference to Seventh Samurai. Well, he said that was just one of the many examples, because he said that 7 just felt like a strong number. Mm-hmm. But he mainly mentioned Seven Samurai.
Kurosawa runs deep in Japan.
Oh, yeah. And we will do a Kurosawa movie. Maybe not this season, or maybe this. Who knows?
Who knows? It'll be your pick. Yeah. But, we did Rashomon last time.
Oh, that's right. But we will do Seven Samurai later on. But anyway. So Mac is the first to die, and she dies off screen. Yeah. Which I find really interesting, that she's the one who dies off screen, because we see the rest of the girls die.
Yeah, and I think it's only because we need the reveal of her head being pulled out of and not expecting it, right?
Right.
We don't want the audience to be in on this one. Mm-hmm. We want everybody to be surprised by her head is attached instead of the watermelon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because
and the head is still alive.
Yeah.
Right, and can levitate, and which, by the way, my second favorite effect is the levitating head going up and down,
like following fantasy. Yeah,
love it, absolutely love it.
And then adding to the strangeness, Max levitating head bites Fantasy on the ass.
Yep. Very strange.
Why? Who knows? You can't ask the director now. So
now I'll ask you this: now that we've established they're all gonna die, and Max was done off screen, what was your favorite death scene? Mine is obviously the piano.
That is definitely a high one for me.
Yeah,
because the effects are so good, and it's just
wild.
It's just wild.
Yeah,
that she gets eaten by a fucking piano
for a while. Like, that scene lasts a while.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, she's eating. Okay, like, no, she's like trying to call for help through the piano cables.
Ooh, that one was, I think, that one got to me more than anything else, was her like reaching out through the piano wire.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, ugh. That made me uncomfortable, but everything else was just silly.
I would say maybe Kung Fu's.
Okay.
Because hers is the most psychedelic out of all of them.
Yeah. Hers is, yeah.
And then her fucking dismembered legs.
Yeah, her legs still finished the job, which I'm like, respect. Like, she's not going to give up.
Game, respect, game.
Yeah, that's right.
But hers is the most psychedelic. And I think the reason why I like hers, too, is because we get more of an idea of how many girls have died at this house.
Right.
When her head's kind of floating in the sea in the blue painting.
Yes.
It feels like maybe that's how many souls have
that
died
makes sense.
At this house. But
a very popular, iconic image from the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere. Like, if you just type in house 1977, that's like one of the first things.
Yeah, when we had Alex pull it up on HBO Max.
That's the image on HBO Max, too. Yeah.
Shout out to our buddy Alex.
Yeah, and HBO Max. Why not both?
I guess.
I love HBO Max.
I mean, they're great. That's a different story.
Different story.
Yeah. Anyway, so I would say it's because, but I don't know, man. Melody getting eaten by the piano.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Because we already get a hint about there's something off about that piano.
Yeah.
And then it just fucking eats her fingers. Great effect when she's huh. Like, she's not fazed by the fact that she's missing, like...
Right.
Like, fingers. Like that. Yeah. And then it just fucking eats her.
And then it eats her. It's gone.
Yeah.
She's gone. Which, I mean... It's completely outrageous.
Yeah.
Right? How she gets eaten by the piano.
But yeah, I would say those two are tied because
Kung Fu's is pretty nuts. Just because you're right, it's the most far out groovy one.
Yeah, because
with all the colors and stuff.
Yeah, because she's not only being eaten by a lamp, but it's almost electrocuting her simultaneously.
Yeah.
I would say the most heartbreaking is Sweets.
You think so? With the mattresses?
Because they don't know where she's at.
Right.
And then they find her in the grandfather clock, like almost frozen, and then just blood keeps coming down.
Right.
I would say that's the most heartbreaking because you're just like, oh no.
Oh no.
Well, because that's how they're kind of reacting, because they're just speechless.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. And another. So since we're on the topic of the girls are dying, what happens to Gorgeous is also now kind of become a staple in horror, where the instant when she's looking through the aunt's stuff and the makeup and she tries the makeup on, the minute she tries the makeup on, the house has got her.
Yeah.
Like because the first time I saw it, the minute she's putting on the lipstick, I'm like,
and this brings me to my favorite effect, which is the sort of glass breaking her face, right? And like chunks are coming off of her face. It's very reminiscent of... Well, for me, because I've seen them in this order, but it would be the opposite. Poltergeist would be reminiscent of this when he starts peeling off his face in the mirror in Poltergeist. But this one, it's just like her face is made of glass, and then pieces of glass are falling off her face.
Yeah, that effect is so cool.
That was my favorite effect. So keep thinking about yours. Okay. It might be the piano stuff, which you loved.
Potentially, yeah.
But that one is mine. I really liked the way that looked. And then eventually it kind of got a little too much, but if it had just been her face, that would have been really rad. I would have really enjoyed it.
Oh, so you didn't like when it
was her whole body.
And then it's like her body's like fire.
Yeah, I mean, that was all right. I just loved the face. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, man, the first time seeing it, I was like, house has got her now.
House has got her.
Like, because, and it's almost interesting that Gorgeous does die, but not violently. She dies by getting possessed.
Right. Like the house gently takes her, right, and uses her as a vessel, right?
Yeah, and I think it's because of her aunt. That her aunt died in the house.
Yeah.
And
blood related.
Makes sense. Maybe. Because as all the other girls die violently.
Yeah.
I would say the less violent death is Prof, even though I'm pretty sure she drowns.
Well, she dissolves.
That's it.
Yeah, she dissolves in the blood, which is So I mean,
people are listening like, what the fuck kind of movie are they talking about?
When the floor breaks apart and it's just they're floating.
Yeah, in the sea of blood that the cat's picture has spewed out.
Right. I mean, that's sort of, where can you go from there? That's how you know the movie's about to be over. Because it's like, we're at the peak of, this is the most outrageous thing you can get.
Well, and then until the very next scene of Mr. Togo getting turned into bananas.
I forgot about Mr. Togo. Okay, so all of his scenes
are very
weird, but very funny. They're
very slapsticky. Yeah,
like when he falls in the bucket,
and he's like, oh, like when it does like the kind of like the single cuts, and he's like, oh, like, and he spins around in a circle and fought like.
Yeah, it has a specific name that's sort of it's stop motion with humans.
Yeah. Right,
like with actual living people, it has a name, and I learned it because I saw Tetsuo, the Iron Man, which that movie's full of that. Another insane Japanese film.
Yeah,
that was from 1989.
Yeah, because he's trying to find the house, because Fantasy is in love with him.
Fantasy's in love with him,
even though he's not very handsome.
Nope.
Because we get this full description of how handsome he is, and I'm thinking like, wow, this motherfucker's probably handsome.
Yeah.
Nah.
Nope. Nah. Oh, you mean that goofball?
No, you mean that guy?
That guy?
That guy?
But okay, fantasy, you know what?
Whatever floats your boat.
Whatever is your fantasy, you go for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to judge. But I am. And
I mean, is she going to still be into him now that he's bananas?
I guess. I like that the banana's still wearing the hat.
Yeah.
That's how we know he turned into bananas. But the stepmom doesn't even he's like, whatever.
Like, oh, bananas in a car shaped like a man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wearing a hat. Fun. You know?
Yeah.
Fun way to sell bananas.
Yeah, and somehow not liking watermelons kills the watermelon salesman. Mm-hmm. Do you like watermelons? No. Well, what do you like? I like bananas. And that kills him.
Yeah. Again, it makes no sense.
I would say, before we get kind of back into the movie, I would say this is probably the strangest. Actually, I wouldn't say,
Is this the strangest movie you've ever seen?
No. Well, strangest for the season. Like, I feel like I should have saved this one maybe because of how strange it is.
Zach said something very similar about, you picked the best movie to open with, which is Irreversible. Like, you picked the most outrageous yet serious movie you could have.
And then I followed that up with pretty much a hour and a half episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo, if Scooby-Doo took acid, which they probably did anyway.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Shaggy was blazing every day.
I mean, Shaggy blazing that kush, but I mean, is he he's smoking that loud? But
I mean, that's why he's got to eat those Scooby snacks.
I know. That's why he eats dog food. But
they all have to be blazing because if they all think Scooby can talk.
But are they dropping acid? Are they getting wet? Are they on angel dust? So
I mean, I don't know, man. It was the 60s.
Yeah.
They were probably doing, dude, Hanna-Barbera, bro. They were like, check this out.
My new favorite slang is smoking loud. That lets you know it's good. It's loud, which I love. Can we just, all right, everyone, just let's stop. It's not going to get better than that. That's the last one. That's the last one for slang for good weed.
Oh, loud.
Is loud.
There's a bit I really like where it's like, hey, I got that loud. You want to try some? Yeah. Sorry, everyone. That's probably really loud. But yeah, get it because it's loud.
I hate it. Yeah, I hated that.
Okay. So
yes, I got it.
Back to the acid trip of a movie that I picked.
That we were talking about.
Which again, as I was talking about off mic, way to follow up your very serious movie.
Can I also admit something to you?
Yes.
Is that I had watched it before. But I didn't even make it to the house.
Really?
Because I think I wasn't expecting it to be like that. And I probably popped it in before I went to bed.
And so you're probably tired and you're like, what the fuck?
I was like, I can't do this right now. And so, this is my first viewing. I know this is your second viewing. But
yeah. So I'd asked you about it because I'd seen the Criterion cover art, which I'll just kind of throw maybe like whip past really quickly.
Ooh, cover art, Criterion.
And I was asking you about it, and I was like, hey, what's that movie? Like the Criterion, like the wolf is on the cover, and you're like, House? And I was like, is that it? And I look it up, and yeah, that was it. And all I did was read the description, and I was like, what the fuck is this movie?
I do not envy the person who works for Criterion that
had to write that description.
Come up with a description.
Yeah. And I love that they even say it's an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moments that are very reminiscent of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Like when Kung Fu fights the mummy, and she kicks the mummy through the wall, and there's a perfect outline of the mummy through the wall.
Unreal. It's so good.
But yeah, just reading the description, I was like, I have to watch this movie now.
Yeah.
I have to. And I loved it. Still do. I tried to get Ashley to watch it with me. I was like, please watch this movie with me. And she was like, no, I'm not really into foreign movies. Plus, that's really weird. I'm like, I was like, you weren't even watching it the first time I was ever watching it. She's like, yeah, but I skimmed it. I'm like, that's not enough, though.
That's not the same.
It's not the same.
No.
Okay. So I think I have an answer for you for best effect.
For best effect, okay.
Okay, so you already told me yours with the glass breaking. I would probably say it is the it's a tie between the piano.
Okay.
Like, how they did it was wild.
Right.
Like,
right,
how
right.
the piano fucking eats melody.
Yeah.
It's either that or, I'm trying to think of it. I had it, and then going off on that tangent loud. I'm not going to sit here in silence
No,
forever.
I mean, I can try to guess what your favorite effect is. I don't know if you liked the severed head stuff with Mac. That was really good.
I also really liked the final shot.
Okay, I know what you mean.
Where Gorgeous shakes her soon-to-be stepmother's hand and her head catches on fire.
Yeah.
I fucking loved that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Because the combination of her sash blowing in the wind and then the fire overlay over her head, it was really good.
Yeah. So I have this on my leg because I thought I knew what I wanted to do next week, and I'm going to save it. So I'm going to pick something else.
So I'm trying to think. I was like, what else haven't we talked about?
Oh,
and
half the movie.
Yeah. And this just came to me. We haven't talked about Blanche.
No, the cat.
Who is in itself almost like an extension of the ant.
Yes, and by transitive properties, the house, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's almost... It's the movie almost makes it seem like the cat chooses
the victim
when someone dies. Yeah, because then the eyes will glow the green, right, and then they're doomed, right?
Yeah.
And of course, later Gorgeous will do that with her eyes.
Yeah. Then that's how you really know the house is gone.
Right. She is part of the house.
She is the. I kind of saw that as she is the new caretaker of the house.
Oh, so okay. So we're
Because-
thinking it's sort of like an overlook sort of situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That she is now the person who lures people in, because. I guess we'll touch on the ending, because when the stepmom comes, the house is fixed up.
Right.
As where we just saw it with the aunt, it's very cobwebs everywhere.
It's a little
dilapidated, but now it's fresh coat of paint. The cobwebs are all gone.
Yeah.
It's
like it looks newer, right? Or at least clean.
and I kind of saw that as, now that Gorgeous is a part of the house, she's younger, and I guess now with what you said about her and the aunt being blood related, now she runs the house.
Right.
Maybe. Maybe.
And it will now be the person to trap other people in the house.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love the line that she tells her stepmom, because her stepmom's like, "Where's your friends?" And she's like, "Oh, they're sleeping right now. But when they wake up, they'll be hungry." And I'm just like, oh, shit.
It was a great line.
Yeah.
That's... and again, it's really campy, and it's really, it's heavy-handed, and it's perfect for the movie. It's a perfect end cap.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This movie is...
Even the end credits are so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, of how, like, of each girl, like, starring, and it just like...
And then even after the actor sequence, you get that still painting of what my favorite image from, like, the posters and things like that from the house, and then the big red bulbous
like
tongue. Yeah, almost. And the credits roll into the tongue, and then they pop out of the chimney. They'll be like, almost like you crumple up a piece of paper, right? And it just pops out of the chimney and rolls away.
If I'm being honest, I never made it that far.
You didn't make it that far? Yeah, it's just wild, like everything else about this movie.
Before we do our wrap up, I want to talk about the title itself. House. Because unlike most Japanese films, it wasn't translated.
Yeah.
That was the name the director wanted to call it. which, as he said in the documentary, calling a Japanese film by an English title was very taboo in those times, but he was very adamant that the movie is called House.
Yeah, and that's even the opening title sequence is very reminiscent to me of like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like with the lips and with the teeth and all that stuff, which I knew you would appreciate.
Yeah, love Rocky Horror.
Right, and I really liked the opening sort of animated sequence of like it has a mouth and it's eating things.
And then it's an eye. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, that really we were talking about how the first kind of 5-6 minutes of the movie are fairly mundane, but the opening sequence kind of sets you up.
It's like, oh, that was odd.
Especially with the low, almost demonic voice. House. Yeah. Because you think it's going to be more like production company, because with the perfect symmetrical blue line coming and making the box.
Oh, right.
And then, nope. That's our title.
Yep.
Excuse me. Yeah. And I thought that was so cool that he really pushed for, like, no, like, this is called House. Like, it's not, we're not going to translate it. It's House. Even though if you read about it, it'll show the actual, like, Japanese for house, which is Hausu.
Yeah.
I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Hausu. Yeah.
Hausu. But the film is House. And I think that's just, I don't know, I think that's super rad.
No, you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. This movie is cuckoo bananas. No pun intended.
R.I.P. to Mr. Togo.
R.I.P. I really enjoy it. It'll be a while before I watch it again, but I'll watch it again.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt that I'll just pop it on and just have it in the background.
You gotta have, because I will keep trying to see if Ashley will watch it. And you gotta see if Haley will watch it.
I don't know if she will. She watched a little bit of it. She was there.
And she was just like,
in the room.
What are you watching?
Yeah, she would, every once in a while she'd look up and be like, wait, so she's like possessed? I was like, kind of.
But not really.
Every time she would ask a question, my answer would have to be, it's kind of like that. Because you'll never get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like,
I did just remember, and oops, I forgot. So, oops, I forgot. The film was very much inspired by the director's daughter, but he added in the element of the fiance going off to war and not coming back.
Okay.
Because he said, yes, it's kind of ridiculous that the house eats girls, but if there's not a reason behind it, then it's just ridiculous. And so he added that in because he grew up in Hiroshima.
Okay.
And he lost childhood friends to World War II. And so it had a lot of World War II vibes with that element. Would I say that element applies to everything else in the movie? Maybe not, but I had heard someone say once about the movie that it's post, like, Hiroshima kind of mindset.
Okay. I think I've also, because one of my favorite podcasts, as I've mentioned several times, is Enter the Void, and they did an episode on House. And they had mentioned the World War II, you don't want to say theory, but, World War II explanation.
Right.
Right? Or overlay, that it's sort of like, what it's like to lose friends, what it's like to lose control, what it's like to not, be in control of your surroundings, is what I meant by that. And, what it's like to sort of be living in that time and this is kind of what it feels like, right? Especially in Japan during World War II and especially in Hiroshima, however you want to pronounce it, during World War II. That makes sense to me. I don't know if I want to paint the whole movie with that brush.
I wouldn't either.
I think that, what we get might be it, which is that little, let's add in some World War II stuff in here, but it's not going to be the whole thing.
I agree. I think he wanted to add a little bit to pay homage to, this is where I came from, because I do agree that if there was no reason behind it, the movie would have just been ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
As where the reason is the aunt was waiting on her fiance to come home from the war because he promised he would, and she died and her spirit became angry and took over the house, then the explanation makes sense.
I'd be interested to, because I'd forgotten all about that, to watch it again with World War II colored glasses on.
You gotta go buy a pair and then let them possess you.
Right. Like to see it through that lens, it might be an interesting watch, and it may, I don't know. It gives context, but I don't know if I want it to be like that.
No,
it would be interesting if that were the intent. Mm-hmm. The entire thing is a sort of representation of post-World War II Hiroshima.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think... I don't know. I don't know if that's what the director was wanting.
Yeah.
It could be. It could be exactly what he was wanting. And he was like, it's just taken years for people to figure that out. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. Because as far as I know, he just wanted to make an interesting movie like Jaws.
Yeah.
So... but yeah. Yeah, man.
That was a cool wrap-up.
Cool wrap-up. So, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
How are we continuing the strangeness?
So, originally, and I want people just to be aware that this will come up this season.
Okay.
Because originally it was going to be Schenectady, New York. And that's going to take a lot of time to prepare for.
Okay.
I love Charlie Kaufman to death. We do it every season.
Yeah.
And so this will be no different. Schenectady, New York will be happening this season. I didn't want to... I realized during this, I was like, I don't want to do it that soon.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick one that coincidentally also came out in 1977. First off, so did Star Wars. And so I wanted people to know that, see the difference between the special effects. So... You got George Lucas money, and you got these indie Japanese film money.
Yeah.
What you get. But I wanted to do a David Lynch film this season.
Oh, okay.
And I've already said 1977, and I've already said David Lynch, so we both know it's Eraserhead.
Nice.
So we're gonna do Eraserhead next week. I'm a huge fan of this. This is his first feature film. I would also recommend, if you guys have the Criterion, and I know you do.
Hell yeah.
I recommend also watching the short films he has on there.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the styles will mesh, and you'll sort of get something out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it won't solve the puzzle for you, but it'll at least give you a sort of idea. And before or after, doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to ask, should I watch them before or should I watch them after?
Doesn't matter. I just think that, if you watch it before, it'll prepare you for Eraserhead, sort of. And if you watch it after, it'll just be like, oh. Like, that's where he gets the sort of aesthetic, is right. He's bringing a lot of his short film stuff, which is a lot of multimedia stuff. If you saw David Lynch, The Art Life, which is also on the Criterion Collection.
Which I also have.
You get to see, like, sort of his art aesthetic, like what he likes to do when he makes something. Mm-hmm. Like when he makes a piece of art, it's always paint with paper mache, with clay, with metal, with metal, and with it's but it all comes together for one art piece, which kind of explains David Lynch. So, as being one of his disciples, I love David Lynch so much. We're going to talk about Eraserhead next week, and I think you're really going to like it.
Tight. Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it.
Yeah.
Because I've been meaning to go through all my Criterion movies, but every time I get a new one, I have to restart.
Oh, right.
And go back, because I start from year.
Uh-huh.
So I have to go back and start again. And so, I just got the Circus.
Yeah,
so I have to restart again and go the Circus, and then Bitter Rice.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, we hope everyone enjoyed us discussing House. I don't know if I can top that.
And I'm not expecting you to.
Okay,
I actually, I kind of expect you to do it every once in a while. And so you can just pick whatever movie you want. I'm handcuffing myself to a genre or
a concept.
A concept.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I just think it's fun for me to do this. And these are movies that I love, which are strange, avant-garde, sort of off the beaten path. So.
Yeah. So we hope everyone enjoyed House, and we will see you next week for Eraserhead.